In the summer of 2019, a guy named Malik got a message from his old college buddy, Darren. They hadn't talked in a while, but Darren sounded excited and said he had something wild to show him. Malik figured it was just another one of Darren's crazy adventures. He was always getting into weird stuff. But then Darren mentioned a girl. "Come with me tonight," he said. "I'll introduce you to a girl I know. She's been asking about you." That caught Malik's attention. He'd been single for a while, and the way Darren hyped her up made him curious. "Where are we going?" Malik asked. "An old house outside of town," Darren replied, like it was no big deal. But everyone in the city of Fairgrove had heard of that house. Old, broken down, and sitting at the edge of the woods. People called it the MR.Creepy place. Folks swore it was haunted. Stories about it were everywhere. People losing their minds after visiting, strange sounds in the night, and worse. Malik had always avoided it, even as a kid. But now, with the promise of meeting someone new, he gave in. That night, just before sunset, Darren picked him up in his dusty old car, blasting music and grinning like a kid on Halloween. "You ready?" he said. Malik didn't answer. His gut was already telling him this was a mistake. When they reached the house, it looked even worse than Malik remembered. The roof sagged in the middle, and the windows were either shattered or boarded up. The paint had peeled off long ago, and vines had crept across the brick like veins on old skin. As soon as they stepped inside, the air changed. It was heavy and cold, like walking into a freezer. Dust hung in the air, and everything smelled like mold and something else Malik couldn't place, something metallic like rusted iron. In the hallway, a giant portrait hung crooked on the wall. It showed a family, 2 adults and 3 kids posed like they were at a fancy photo shoot. But their faces were wrong, too wide. Their teeth were bared like snarling dogs, and there was red smeared around their mouths like they had just eaten something raw. Malik stepped back. The painting made his skin crawl. They moved deeper into the house, their flashlight beams darting across cracked wallpaper and broken furniture. Just as Malik started to say they should leave, they both heard a sound, like dishes clattering, in another room. "The kitchen?" Darren said. They crept toward the sound, hearts pounding. The kitchen was lit only by the moonlight spilling through a dirty window. The table was set. Plates, silverware, even cups, all neatly arranged like someone was expecting guests. Malik's eyes dropped to the plates. Bones. Real ones. One plate had what looked like part of a jaw. Another had something round and cracked, like the top of a skull. Malik's stomach turned. "We need to go. Now," he whispered, but Darren just laughed. "Come on, man. We're already here. Let's check upstairs, then we'll leave. Promise." Malik begged him to turn around, but Darren had that same look he always had when he was chasing some thrill. He was already walking up the stairs. The second floor was worse. Paintings lined the hallway walls, portraits like the one downstairs, but older. These showed different people, maybe the family's ancestors, but they didn't look human. Their skin was dark red, covered in bumps, and their eyes seemed to follow you. Some had long fingernails, twisted and sharp like claws. The longer Malik looked, the more it felt like they were all watching him. Darren went into a room at the end of the hall. Malik opened a different door just a few steps away. The room was pitch black. Then a voice, low and scratchy, whispered from the dark, "You look delicious." A figure crawled out from under the bed. It was a woman, but her skin clung to her bones and her eyes were just black holes. Her mouth stretched too wide and sharp. Yellow teeth filled it. She moved fast, skittering across the floor like a spider. Malik stumbled back, slammed the door shut, and nearly fell into the hallway. Ice-cold air hit his face, and when he turned back, the woman was gone. Then he heard it, Darren screaming. He ran down the hall to the room Darren had entered. The door was locked. He pounded on it, yelling Darren's name. "Open up! What's going on?" No answer, just laughter, and the clinking of dishes. Then, groaning, Malik pressed his ear to the door. From the other side, Darren's voice spoke in a weird, slow tone. I'm Ecstatic. Malik kicked the door over and over. Nothing worked. He finally called the police, not caring how much trouble they'd be in. He just wanted to get Darren out. The police arrived 20 minutes later. When they heard what house it was, their faces turned serious. One officer muttered, "This place, again?" They broke the lock and forced the door open. What they found inside didn't feel real. Darren was lying on a long wooden table. He wore nothing but his boxers. Forks had been stabbed into his stomach and his arms were stretched out like he was being offered up. Plates surrounded him, filled with some thick, black liquid. He was grinning and whispering over and over, "Enjoy your meal. Enjoy your meal." The officers moved toward him, but he screamed, "Please eat this too," and grabbed a knife from the table, trying to stab himself again. They wrestled it from him, but he fought like a wild animal. "You can't have my flesh. It's for them." It took 3 officers to hold him down. He kept shouting about the family and how happy he was to feed them. He passed out on the stretcher, still smiling. At the hospital, after surgery, Malik went to see him. Darren just stared at the ceiling and whispered, "That was the best night of my life." He talked about the family again, how they were starving and beautiful. "They were so hungry," he said, "and I wanted to help. I wanted to make them happy." His eyes filled with blood and he started laughing. Then he looked straight at Malik and screamed, "Why did you come in during mealtime? They almost had all of me. Take me back, they're waiting." He lunged forward, grabbing Malik's shirt before the nurses pulled him off. Malik left the room shaking, trying to make sense of any of it. That wasn't his friend anymore. Something had changed. Him. Something had taken over. A few days later, Malik found out that Darren had tried to rip open his own stomach with his bare hands. He told the hospital staff he needed to finish the meal. They moved him to a mental hospital after that. While he was there, Darren started drawing, sketch after sketch of the same strange family. Thin faces, needle-like teeth, eyes like burned holes, long bony fingers. They didn't look human. They didn't even look alive. Now, whenever Malik thinks about that night, his chest tightens. He wonders what Darren saw, what he really saw. Whatever it wasn't just in his head, and deep down. Malik knows the worst part, that family, they're still waiting. My name's Darren, and I want to tell you something that happened when I was 15. Something I still think about today, especially on stormy nights. It was during summer break, the kind of break where you don't really keep track of time. My best friend Trey invited me to his family's cabin for the weekend. He said 2 other friends, Leon and Malik, were coming too. I'd never been to a real cabin before, so I got excited and asked my mom if I could go. She said yes, just be safe and don't do anything dumb. Classic mom advice. The next morning, I packed my clothes, grabbed a bag of snacks, and said goodbye. Trey's older brother drove us about 2 hours out to the woods near a small town called Pine Grove. The cabin sat near a quiet lake with thick trees all around it. It looked old but cozy, with a wooden porch and a stone chimney. You could tell it had been in his family for a long time. When we got there, Trey's grandma had baked us these warm peanut butter cookies. She said it was her secret recipe and winked at us. I must have eaten like 5 in a row. After that, we ran down to the lake, jumped into the water, and spent the day swimming and playing. We even started a game of volleyball in the sand by the shore. It felt like a perfect summer day. But then came the night, and everything changed. After dinner, we were just hanging out in the living room, playing cards and laughing, when the power flickered. Outside, we could hear thunder in the distance. A storm was rolling in. The wind started picking up, rustling, the trees and tapping branches against the cabin windows. That's when Trey said, "Hey, you guys want to check out the woods?" Leon raised an eyebrow. "Man, it's dark out. Plus, it's about to storm. Can't we wait until tomorrow?" Trey just grinned. "It's way more fun at night. We'll be fine if we stick together." Malik leaned back on the couch and said, I'm down if y'all are." I was a little nervous, but I didn't want to be the only one to say no. "Let's just be quick about it," I said. "We'll go a little ways in and come right back." So we got ready. Trey grabbed an old lantern from the porch. Malik and I each took flashlights, and Leon, well, he showed up with a fire extinguisher and a small lighter in his hoodie pocket. Trey laughed. "A fire extinguisher? Really?" Leon shrugged. "You never know what's out there. I'm just being smart." We opened the back door and stepped outside. The wind hit us right away, cold and fast. The sky had turned a deep gray, and far off, lightning flashed through the clouds. We headed into the woods, following a narrow trail between tall pine trees. The air smelled like wet bark and damp earth, and the only sound was the crunch of our shoes and the distant roll of thunder. After about 10 minutes, something felt off. There was this weird sound coming from the left, near the direction of the lake. It wasn't the wind or an animal. It was like mumbling. At first, we thought maybe it was a radio from another cabin, but we didn't see any lights out there. We stopped walking and stood still, listening. Then we heard it again, closer this time. A strange mumbling voice mixed with low growls, like someone talking to themselves or arguing with something that wasn't there. "Did y'all hear that?" Malik whispered. We all nodded. None of us were smiling anymore. Trey motioned for us to stand in a circle back to back, pointing our lights in different directions. We scanned the trees, our hearts pounding. The thunder cracked louder now, and the rain started to fall in light drops through the leaves above us. Then we heard yelling. Man's voice. Loud, angry, screaming something we couldn't understand, and coming closer. I swung my flashlight toward the noise, and that's when I saw him. There, just a few yards away, stood an old man. He looked like he was in his 70s, wearing a long coat that was soaked from the rain. His face was pale, and he was staring up at the sky like he was in a trance. But what really got me was what he was holding. An axe. He stood still at first, not noticing us. I pointed him out to the others, and they all froze. Nobody said a word. But then Malik stepped backward and snapped a branch under his shoe. The man's head jerked toward us so fast it made me jump. His eyes locked on us, and he started running. "Go!" Trey yelled, but none of us moved. The man was fast, way faster than we expected. He held the axe high and screamed like he wasn't even human, just pure rage. Then Leon stepped forward, aimed the fire extinguisher, and blasted him straight in the face. A cloud of white foam exploded over the man, blinding him for just a moment. "Now!" Leon yelled, and that broke us out of our frozen state. We ran. I don't think I've ever run that fast in my life. The rain was falling harder now, soaking our clothes and making it hard to see. Lightning lit up the woods every few seconds, showing flashes of twisted trees and shadows behind us. I could hear the man shouting and coughing behind us, but he didn't follow for long. Maybe the extinguisher scared him off, or maybe he slipped. I don't know. All I cared about was getting back to that cabin. When we finally reached it, we slammed the door shut, locked it, and pushed a chair under the knob. We turned off the lights and sat there in the dark, listening to the storm howl outside. No one said anything for a while. We were all too out of breath and scared. That night, none of us slept much. Every crack of thunder made us jump. Every shadow outside the window made us think he was coming back. We talked about calling the police, but we weren't even sure what we'd say. We didn't know who the man was or where he came from. Maybe he lived in the woods. Maybe he wasn't even real. It all felt like a bad dream, except we were wide awake. The next morning, we begged Trey's grandma to take us home early. She didn't ask many questions, just packed us into the car and drove. I think she could see the fear in our faces. I never told my parents what happened. I figured they'd think I was making it up or trying to be dramatic. But I know what I saw. We all do. Sometimes, late at night when it storms, I think about that man. I wonder what he was doing out there, why he was so angry, and what would have happened if Leon hadn't brought that fire extinguisher. And sometimes, I wonder if he's still out there, wandering the woods with that axe, waiting for someone else to stumble onto his path. If you ever go walking in the woods at night, especially when there's a storm coming, don't be too sure you're alone. You never know who or what is watching from the dark. It all happened back in 2007. I was just 11 years old and my family took a trip to a small village in southern Ghana to visit some of our relatives. It was the middle of summer, and we were all excited to get away from the city for a while. My uncle Kwame, his wife Auntie Essie, and their daughter Ama came along too. We all piled into our van and hit the road. One day we planned to visit a very old temple near the coast. People said the temple brought good luck and many went there to pray, feed the animals, and enjoy a peaceful day. When we got there, we walked around, gave food to the cows, and even had lunch made by the temple helpers. The food was simple, but delicious: hot rice, vegetables, and spiced fish. My dad, as part of a family tradition, shaved his head at the temple to wish blessings on our trip. We laughed, took pictures, and had a good time together. It felt like a perfect day, but as the sun started to go down, dark clouds rolled in. Thunder rumbled far in the distance. The wind picked up and it looked like a storm was coming. We decided it was best not to drive back at night in the rain, so Uncle Kwame and my dad looked for a motel where we could stay. They found a small, quiet place just outside a nearby town. The building looked a bit old, with faded paint and creaky wooden steps, but it was clean enough. Behind it was a big, dry field that stretched out far, with nothing but dusty ground and tall grass. The sky above it was dark now, and flashes of lightning lit up the field every few minutes. We got 2 rooms on the top floor, one for my family and one for Uncle Kwame's. Ours was just big enough for 5 people. There was a double bed, a single bed, a small dresser with an old TV on top, and a tiny bathroom with a window that faced the back field. After getting settled, we went into town for dinner and came back around 10 p.m. It was raining by then and the thunder was louder, shaking the windows every now and then. My big sister Abena, who was 19, shared the double bed with my younger brother Kojo, who was 9. My parents slept on the single bed and I slept next to my siblings. We were all really tired and wanted to fall asleep quickly. Mom reminded us that we had to leave early in the morning, so she told us to go straight to bed. With the storm howling outside and the windows rattling every time thunder cracked, we pulled the sheets over our heads and tried to sleep. Sometime around midnight, I woke up. I couldn't tell what time it was exactly, but it was still very dark. I heard a soft rustling sound near the foot of the bed, near the dresser. The rain was still tapping on the window and the wind whistled outside. The lightning flashed now, and then, and in one of those flashes I thought I saw my dad standing there, doing something with his wallet. I didn't think much of it at the time. Maybe he needed something. I was too sleepy to care and went back to sleep. But later that night I was woken again, this time by a scream. A loud, scared scream from the room next to us. It was Auntie Essie. I sat up quickly, heart racing, and looked around. My parents weren't in their bed anymore. Then my mom suddenly ran into the room. She looked scared, like she was in a hurry. Without saying a word, she pulled the wedding chain off her neck and threw it under the bed. In our culture, a wedding chain is more than just jewelry. It's a special gold necklace given at the wedding, full of meaning and value. Seeing her throw it like that made my stomach twist. Something was very wrong. She ran back to the other room. I turned and saw that Abena and Kojo were awake too. I whispered, "What's happening?" But Abena just shook her head and told us to stay calm. We were all shaking, not from the cold, but from fear. The thunder outside made it worse. It boomed like a giant drum, and the lightning lit up the walls like camera flashes. A few minutes later, Mom came back and hugged us. She didn't say much, but we could feel how worried she was. She kept telling us we were okay, but her voice sounded unsure. Our hearts were pounding so fast, it felt like they were about to jump out of our chests. In Ghana, like many places in Africa, people aren't shy about showing how they feel. When someone is scared or upset, they cry loudly, and that's what Auntie Essie did. Her cries were painful to hear, echoing through the halls, mixing with the thunder outside. As kids from the city, we weren't used to that. It made everything feel even more terrifying. Eventually, we drifted back to sleep, still shaken. In the morning, my parents were already up. They were talking in quiet voices, and I knew they were trying not to scare us more. After a while, they told us what had happened. During the night, someone had broken into the room next to ours, Auntie Isi and Uncle Kwame's room. The man had come in through the small bathroom window. He stole Auntie Isi's wedding chain and the car keys to our van. Uncle Kwame had woken up because he heard something strange and went to check. That's when he caught the burglar sneaking out the window. He tried to grab the man, but the burglar slipped and fell out the window into the field behind the motel. Uncle Kwame and my dad ran outside in the rain and chased after him into the tall grass, but the man disappeared into the stormy night. The police came later but couldn't find him either. Luckily, we had a spare car key. We packed our things and got ready to go. Before we left, Uncle Kwame went back out to look around the field, just in case the man dropped something. But there was nothing. No clue, no sign, just mud and bent grass from the storm. Auntie Essie barely said a word on the drive back. She looked out the window the whole time, quiet and pale. That night had really shaken her. Then, something strange happened. My dad checked his wallet and realized his cash was gone. But that wasn't what bothered him the most. What really hurt was that a tiny photo of his late father, one he always kept in his wallet, was missing too. That's when I remembered something. The man I saw standing near the dresser at midnight, the one I thought was my dad, that wasn't him. It was the burglar. He had come into our room too. He went through my dad's things while we were all sleeping just a few feet away. He could have done anything. I still think about that moment. What if he had noticed I was awake? What if he thought I was going to scream? What would he have done? I'm glad it was so dark. Maybe he didn't see me. Or maybe he did and just didn't care. Either way, it still gives me chills to this day. Now every time I stay in a hotel or guest house, I double-check everything. I lock the door, I shut the bathroom window tight, and I always keep my valuables close. That night taught me how fast something can go from calm to terrifying. One moment you're safe and warm in bed, and the next a stranger is standing right there in the dark.